You just bought something you didn't need. Maybe it's still in the box. Maybe the tag is still on. Maybe it's sitting in a drawer with four other things exactly like it. You told yourself this one will be different. It wasn't. And somewhere in your mind, a quiet voice is already looking for the next thing. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 20 saw this coming 3,000 years ago before online shopping even existed. Hell and destruction are never full, it says, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. Two things that can never be filled, placed side by side on purpose. One is a pit with no bottom. The other is you, looking at the screen at 11 at night, adding one more item to the cart. That's the real answer. Your eyes were never built to be satisfied. Not because something is wrong with you, because of how wanting itself works. Here's what almost nobody tells you about your desire. It doesn't run on need, it runs on gap. Psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell studied this decades ago and gave it a name that still gets used today, the hedonic treadmill. Their research followed people who had just won the lottery and people who had just lost the use of their legs in an accident. Within about a year, both groups had drifted back toward roughly the same baseline of happiness, same as they started with. The lottery winners weren't blissful forever. The accident survivors weren't devastated forever. Circumstances changed completely. The feeling underneath barely moved. Started from. Think about what that means for a purchase. You see the object, something lights up, a story forms in your head faster than you can question it. This will make things easier. This will make me look a certain way. This will finally close the gap I'm feeling right now. You buy it, and for a moment, the gap feels like it has closed. Then it feels open again. Not because the object failed, because the gap was never really about the object itself. There is a second pattern hiding underneath the first one, and it's sneakier. It's called the Diderot Effect, named after the 18th century philosopher Denis Diderot, and later studied and popularized by anthropologist Grant McCracken. Diderot received a beautiful new dressing gown as a gift, one elegant object in his study, except now his old desk looked shabby next to it. So he replaced the desk. Then the tape choice looked wrong next to the one new desk. So he replaced those two. One purchase didn't satisfy him. It exposed everything around it that suddenly felt insufficient. You've lived this. New shoes make the rest of the outfit look tired. A new phone makes the old case look embarrassing. One good lamp makes the whole room look unfinished. The eyes were never satisfied. They were just waiting for something to compare with. Why would a heart be built this way? Why not just let you feel content and stay there? Go back further than shopping, further than money, further than cities. Go back to the beginning. In the garden, desire wasn't broken. There was enough. There was rest. There was no gap to chase. Then came the moment everything changed. Scripture describes the fruit as good for food, pleasant to the eyes, and desirable. Notice that middle word, pleasant to the eyes. The eyes were the first thing deceived, reaching for something that looked like it would finally satisfy, and finding out afterward that it didn't, but it actually did the opposite. That single choice didn't just cost the garden, it bent human desire itself, so that wanting became restless in a way it was never meant to be. The preacher in Ecclesiastes describes the result plainly. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Not a flaw in one person, a condition inherited by everyone born after that first reach for something merely pleasant to look at. The restlessness didn't disappear when gardens turned into cities. It just aimed itself at whatever was closest. Shelves, screens, notifications. The ancient reach for the fruit is still fully loaded. It just has nothing left to reach except sales. Here's where it gets stranger, and where researchers found something you probably feel but never name. Marketing professor James Roberts, who has spent years studying compulsive buying and materialism at Baylor University, has documented a pattern in people who shop to soothe difficult emotions. Stress goes up, anxiety spikes, boredom sets in, and the shopping cart becomes a kind of a pressure wall. The relief is real, it just doesn't last because the emotion causing the discomfort was never actually about the object being purchased. That's the mechanism working exactly as the Proverbs described it. Not a moral failing, a bottomless pit. You pour something in, and for a moment it feels like it's filling up. Then you look again, and the level hasn't changed at all. So, what actually breaks the pattern if the object was never the point? Not more willpower. Willpower fights the treadmill on a treadmill's terms, and the treadmill always wins that fight eventually. What breaks the pattern is noticing the gap itself, in the moment it opens, before it gets translated into a cart and a checkout button. The stress that shows up disguised as a need, the boredom that shows the boredom that shows up disguised as a deal you can't miss. The comparison that shows up disguised as your desk suddenly looking old next to a new gown you never asked for. Name the gap correctly, and the object loses its magic trick. You start to see for what it actually is, not a thing that will finally satisfy you, just the next line in a list that was never designed to have an ending. Look at the drawer again, the one with the box still unopened. It isn't proof that you have bad judgment. It's proof that you carry the same lashless eyes everyone has carried since the garden, now aimed at shelves that never run dry. The eyes of a man are never satisfied. Not yours specifically, everyone's eyes. It was written that way on purpose, long before any of this existed, because someone was given a pattern a very long time ago and decided it was worth writing down. You bought something you didn't need, and somewhere in your mind, a quiet voice is already looking for the next thing. Now you know what it is.